Hello, Internet. Welcome to a long awaited, at least for us, episode of the Creative Differences podcast. I'm Dallas, and I apologize in advance for any screaming you hear coming from the distance of my house.
I'm Gabby,
What?
and it's gonna be silent over here because I ain't got kids.
I don't have kids either, Gabby.
But you have kids with you.
Fair.
Well, that got weird. I'm Colin, and unlike how it is normally, I'll be talking very little in this one. Get it?
I get
Huh.
it, because you don't talk.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks.
And I'm Demi, and I'm incredibly exhausted because for some reason my sleeping pattern is just completely messed up this week. Welcome to Quarantine Watch.
Yes,
Wah, wah, wah.
quarantine watch. Gabby, tell the people what we're doing, since this is mainly your thing.
Yeah. Okay. So I've noticed that my consumption of media went stupid high as soon as quarantine and like having to stay home all the time happened. So I was like, guys, like I've just consumed a lot, but there's no way that we can cover it, in that little bit that we do between episodes. So I was wondering, can we just condense a bunch of stuff into one episode or two episodes? And that's what we're doing.
It will not be one or two episodes. It will be
Definitely
a
won't.
number of
This
them.
is definitely going to be an ongoing project. We also aren't getting enough new stuff really to cover.
That's a lie. Netflix is on their shit right now.
Just kidding. Okay. Well, anyway, this is just a new thing that we're doing, and we're just covering a lot of the stuff that we're watching because we've all been consuming a lot of what is it called? Media.
Content.
Yes, media content.
See,
Yeah, Netflix is like the only person who was prepared for this.
I don't know, Hulu's been kind of popping too.
yeah,
Hulu
just
too.
released Palm Springs, man.
Yeah, but Netflix is about to release like 6 new things this month.
Oh damn, Netflix.
Yeah, they're always
Okay,
ready.
this is the kind of environment that Netflix was like created for, to be honest.
Exactly, and they're ready for it.
Like, they are
Anyway,
thriving. In fact,
Just a-
haven't they bought some things that were like meant to be released in the movies?
yes, they have, and some of them are on my list. But we're not
Me
going to talk about
too.
that today because they're not on my list right now.
Exactly.
What we're going to do is we're going to divide these up by movies and by TV. Today's episode is going to be TV. So we are each going to choose 5 things that we have watched over the course of this quarantine, and we're going to tell you guys a brief little bit about them, except for
Works for
Colin.
me.
So you guys want to start?
Except for Colin.
Not because we
Uh.
don't want him to, but because he doesn't want to.
That could be the tagline of this podcast. Except for Colin. Not because we don't want him to, but because he doesn't want to.
Stop it.
That's the subtitle right there.
We should put that on a t-shirt.
We should actually.
We selling merch now?
We
I mean, not
should.
now, but when we if we
Do
do.
we have enough people that that would be worth it?
No, but one day, guys, one day. Write that down. We're gonna have it as a T-shirt.
We will
Colin,
have
write that down.
merch someday for all 12 of you that are listening.
I mean, it's like 20 of them.
How many people listened to our last YouTube?
I have it open. 20.
Oh, you
Oh,
do?
wow.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
Start printing those T-shirts now.
Got the numbers.
Anyway, let's move forward. Dallas, do you what? I feel like we should just do our usual circle.
Why not? Except for Colin. So, TV shows. Mine is in chronological order because that was the easiest for me. So this is stuff I started watching like
In March.
kinda. I started my list in April just because
That's when I brought it up.
probably. I don't know why. It was months ago. So what I'm gonna do is start each one with like a brief 1-sentence description. I'm gonna see if you guys can guess what I'm talking about. It's gonna be fun. Maybe you will, maybe you won't.
Great.
Anyway, number 1. One of Disney Channel's best shows, and this one is Black.
Proud Family?
Yeah. Or
Close.
Or
That's a
That's a Raven. Oh wait, or is it
What's
Smart
this?
Guy?
It's Smart Guy. Good job.
Smart guy.
I don't know why that was close. Just because it's Black. Anyway, Smart Guy.
I'm actually surprised at how many we had to name before we got there.
I was thinking when I was writing, I was like, they've had a fair amount.
It feels like they
Those
would
three.
every like cycle had its quote unquote like black show. If that makes
Yeah,
sense.
Sister, Proud Families.
Like over
That's
the
a Raven.
years, except recently, I guess.
No, Casey Undercover.
Oh, okay. I have been corrected.
Yeah, I stopped watching before that.
Continue,
But I'm glad
Dallas.
they kept the cycle going. Yes, Smart Guy was created by Danny Callis, who also created The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. I didn't know that.
Oh, very nice.
Yes, it stars Taj Mowry, Jason Weaver, aka Simba's singing voice, Omar Gooding, Essence Atkins, and John Marshall Jones. This show's amazing. Like watching it as an adult, it's even better. The comedy holds up more than I think most old sitcoms. Oh my God, there's a noise. The comedy holds up better than most old sitcoms. especially Mo. He's like the friend of the older brother.
I love Mo. Mo was the guy I had the crush on.
Mo's amazing. He's like the best character by far. But they're all amazing characters. Floyd, for instance, Floyd Henderson is one of the best TV parents of all time, and he doesn't get enough credit for it because nobody remembers him.
I agree. And also, I wish that all those actors had had more work because I've only
Yeah.
ever seen them really in Smart Guy. Like as
Essence Atkins does a lot of work. Essence has been on several shows in the past couple of years. She's just mostly on Black television shows.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's like different. There's, Black famous and like
Yeah, there was a
rest of
whole
the
thing
world
on
famous.
Twitter about that this past week.
Like celebrities are only famous to Black people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
that's always fun.
Essence has been doing a lot of work since then. Taj was on a sitcom on Freeform for a while, or
I
what
remember
was
that.
then ABC Family.
Oh yes. Which one was
he was
it?
on
The
Baby
Lady Daddy? Yes.
Baby Daddy. I think Jason focuses mostly on music. I want to say that because I actually kind of know him, but
He's also in Drumline, which is fun.
yes, but that was like 2002, man.
I'm just saying, you can't not talk about Drumline.
Yeah, I grew up loving Smart Guy though. Smart Guy was great.
Yeah.
It's a great show,
It's
and like
Yep.
the family dynamic is great too. Because
I
a
loved
lot of
Essence
family
Atkins' character
shows.
growing up.
Yeah,
a
she was
lot.
great. She's like the supportive older sister. Most shows, just like the siblings don't get along. The dad's an oaf. The mom is handling everything. This one they couldn't do that because there's no mom, but they handled it in a very like authentic way. It was kind of nuanced, and I appreciated that. It was still funny, but it felt real. Top 5 Disney Channel shows ever.
And it's on Disney Plus.
Yeah, that's where I watched it.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, we should probably tell people where we watch these things.
That makes sense.
Let me
Disney
add
Plus.
that.
But yeah, watch it. It's amazing, and there's no debate about that. Moving on to Gabby.
Yes, Gabby.
Yes.
Okay, hi guys.
Gabby.
Okay, so I put mine are not in any particular order.
That's fine.
I did put the one that I'm least like passionate or excited to talk about first though. And that was Defending Jacob. Stars Chris Evans, Michelle Dockery, and Jaden Martell. It's on Apple TV Plus, and it is about a family that's dealing with their 14-year-old son accused of being a murderer, and like how stressful that is, and how their whole neighborhood and community like ostracizes them, and they basically eventually kind of have to get up and leave or like move. But it stars, like I said, Chris Evans, who I'm like obsessed with.
Oh yes, they know.
Yeah, everyone does. It was fine. I think so I thought that the Jacob like the son character was going to be the main character, and it's actually Chris Evans, like the dad. It's kind of like
that was a problem for you?
a little bit, because the whole kind of overarching theme of this is, did he do it, right?
Yeah, I assumed.
So like you're seeing it kind of from a parent's perspective. I wanted to know if he did it, and I feel like if we'd spent a little bit more time with Jaden Martell's character, it would have given a little bit more insight. But instead, you're like seeing it from the parents, and they're like, one of them is like, I think maybe, and the other one's like, there's no way that my kid did this, which did add to like the mystery of it. And also my complaint was, because it's Chris Evans, they filmed him in a way that I feel like if it had been any other actor, they would have filmed him to make him look smaller, to make him look like less of a hero, I think. He just kind of doesn't get a moment to be like, or to look truly like hurting, I think, because there was like too many close-ups, if that makes sense. Like I wish there had been a little bit more like, what's the difference between like term wise between a close-up and
There's a lot of other shots.
darn.
Yeah.
There's so many. You got close-ups, mediums, wide shots.
I wish there'd been more
bird's
wide
eye,
shots of him.
low angle.
Okay. I was whoops. See, this is how you know I didn't study film.
Me and Dallas are like, that's
We
a
can go
whole
on for
plethora right there.
While.
Yeah,
Okay, I
lots of
wish there'd been a little bit more wide shots, or shots that made him look smaller, because he just kind of looked like this big superhero dad that like, is going to make everything okay the whole time, when I would have rather like, how do I put this? Like the performance was in his face. It's just like
Mhm.
the way it was shot made him, it just didn't quite give you the full depth of where it could have gone, of where the performance could have gone, if that makes sense. Like,
Was the show trying to make him out to be like a larger than life kind of super dad?
yeah, they kind of still, or there was no moments where he looked small and looked powerless, even though he was small and powerless in that moment because he's
Yeah.
like
Maybe
in
that's why they
court
cast
and his
him
kid.
specifically, because
Maybe
he's
I
been
don't
like playing a
know.
superhero for like 2 decades.
Maybe he's
So
also
we
an
want super
executive.
dad.
Maybe. Well, he's also like an executive producer, and the dad is like the district attorney of that area when his son gets accused of the crime. So it's like
Ah,
super. He's playing a powerful man, but like
yeah, that's what he does.
but like I feel like this show would have been better if you got to see how small and how powerless and how painful this really made this for this powerful man to watch his family go through this. But instead there was just a bunch of close-ups, and like it just didn't quite do it for me in terms of like the feelings they were trying to evoke. And it had to do with the way that they shot him, at least to me. I know a lot of people are praising Chris Evans' performance in this. Like, he's definitely on an Emmy campaign right now. He did really well. It's just it wasn't quite there for me, is what I'm saying.
That's fair. It'd be like that sometimes.
Yeah. And and for me I was like, why can't I like believe him? And it was like, oh, it's because he's close up and I can see all his muscles and like he's taking up most of this screen. Like I want him to be small. Anyway, Michelle Dockery's in it too from Downton Abbey, and also you know her from
The Gentleman.
The Gentleman.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I love her.
oh my god, she's super good. Like in the last episode, she's like basically having like a breakdown, and I was scared. It was good.
That's the best type of,
Yeah.
Good to know.
TV breakdowns.
Yep. But also this show is like way less about the crime and much more of a family drama. So if you're looking for like a SVU kind of a show, this ain't it. This is definitely more like a this family's gonna cry together kind of a deal. Still really good. If you like all those people, I recommend it. It didn't quite hit the mark for me though, but I still want to mention it because it was one of the more interesting things I watched.
Sounds good.
Dope. I'm doing a really weird thing where I'm going to start with the TV show that I've watched most recently, but then I'm going to go in chronological order starting from March.
Okay.
Interesting.
Mostly because it just came out, so I want to give it the promo that it deserves.
Fair.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with Stateless, which is a new Netflix series. It's a limited series. A woman escaping a cult, a refugee fleeing with his family, a father trapped in a dead-end job, and a bureaucrat on the verge of national scandal find their lives intertwined in an immigration detention center. And it's somewhat based on, it's inspired by true events. It stars Yvonne Strahovski, Faisal Bazzi, Jai Courtney, and Asher Ketty, and it's co-created and produced by Kate Blanchett, who also features on the show.
Oh wow.
Interesting.
And it's also it's an Australian TV series, so it actually aired in Australia before it came to international viewers. I really enjoyed it. It is, if you really want to watch a drama, go for it. It's a really good drama about the immigration system and about refugees and how we dehumanize people when they try to come to our countries and how we mistreat them, basically, and how the system is pretty flawed and how it needs to be updated. Yvonne Strahovski's character is the one who's hers is inspired by true events. I don't know if any of the other ones are, but her character is actually an Australian citizen who gets stuck in this, mistakenly stuck in this immigration center, detention center. And she obviously shouldn't be there because she's a citizen, but you find out that she was involved in a cult and that she is running away.
That's pretty intense.
Yes,
Oh,
very
wow.
intense. She is fantastic in this role. She is. Recently, it's been a lot of me watching Yvonne do new TV series and just seeing how phenomenal of an actress that she is and how she's grown to be. Like, if you watch Chuck, she's good on Chuck, but like Chuck is an action comedy, so you would never expect her to be able to do something like Stateless or like Handmaid's Tale, where her
Yeah.
acting is very internalized and it's a lot. It's a lot. Watching her is so much, and she's so good, and she's the reason why I watch the show. But everybody else in the cast is also really good. Faisal Bazzi, who is somebody who I had never seen before, plays a refugee who is trying to get his family to Australia, and he gets separated from them, and he's really good on the show. I was very impressed by him. I really liked his storyline because while Yvonne's character is going through something that's very internal, he's going through something that's very external. Like he has no control over his situation, and he is just trying his best to make a better life for his family. And then you have Jai Courtney and Asher Ketty's characters who are involved in the system in a working capacity. Jai Courtney's character is like, you start the show and you're like, oh, he's going to be like the good guy guard who just wants everybody to like him and treats everybody humanely. But the show really goes into how people who are good people end up in this system and they let it continue and they become a part of it and
Oh,
become part of the dehumanizing of other people.
that makes sense.
That sounds heavy.
And then Asher Ketty's character is another character who maybe once upon a time had far better beliefs than she does now, but she's part of the bureaucracy. And so it's all about making the system look like it's working, making the system look good, and how that also like destroys who you are as a person. It's all really interesting and compelling stuff. I do understand there are certain criticisms out there about like it kind of focusing on like the white characters,
Yeah.
especially Yvonne Strahovski's character. I also understand their reasoning, and they also very much understand their reasoning. It was very purposeful. And the marketing also really focuses on her, but the show doesn't focus on her as much as the marketing did. The show very much is pretty evenly matched in giving all of these characters screen time. But it was very clear what they were doing is that in reality, what happened with the person that Yvonne's character is based off of, because she was stuck in that system mistakenly, it made people question the immigration system in Australia. It took this white woman who was stuck in this immigration detention center who was not supposed to be there. That's when people started going, oh, hey, maybe something's messed up here.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, and that's why the show uses Yvonne's character in the way that it does and why she is one of the focuses. And they even touch on it in the show. And like, yeah, it's really interesting. I think I found it really compelling, a very harrowing look at the immigration system and how badly we need to reform it. It's super good. If you really want to get, I love limited series dramas because they really just get into whatever they're trying to say and then they get out real quick.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's only 6 episodes. Really easy watch. Well, I mean, easy on time, maybe not easy on the
Like I said, it doesn't
emotion.
sound too
Yeah, it
easy.
sounds like really heavy.
Sounds pretty rough.
It's very heavy, but it's worth it. I think it's really worth it because for someone like me, like I don't know a lot about the immigration system.
Ooh.
To see it put on screen that way, it's just like, oh, yeah. Like I know that the immigration system definitely needs reform, but like, yeah, bro, that's rough. That is horrible. That's in Australia.
Yeah.
That's not even in America.
Yep.
But yeah, also the show takes place in the early 2000s and it's now 2020. So
Oh. How is that still relevant?
that's what we keep saying about a lot of issues.
Yep.
So yeah, if you're interested in something like that, if you're looking for like a hardcore drama that has something to say about the society that we are currently in, check out Stateless on Netflix. I hope that this opens up doors for us to tell more stories about refugees and hopefully that no longer have to focus on white characters. Like, because that was like their doorway for certain people who wouldn't want to watch it otherwise. But like, I hope that there are more stories that are told from more refugee points of view.
They're like, haha, we got a white woman. Look, watch. And then they watch and they're like, gotcha. It's about immigration.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened with the marketing. Because when I sent you guys the trailer, you guys were like, why is it so focused on the white woman? And then I watched it and I was like, I mean, she's only a
I
quarter
remember
of this.
Colin said that.
Yeah, that's true. Well, no, Gabby said it too.
What?
That makes sense.
Gabby
Wait, what
also
did I
said
say?
it.
Oh yeah, I was
Yep.
I was low key pissed because it doesn't matter. It's because I'm brown.
Exactly. Yeah. But I watched the show and I was like, she's really only a quarter of this story. She's quite a bit of it, but she's if she's most of the screen time, it's because Yvonne Strahovski has a bigger name than everybody else in the show. It's pretty evenly matched on all sides of the character storylines. But the marketing was really like, hey, look at this. But yeah, I'm hoping for Emmy nominations for these guys because it was really good. They deserve it.
Question. Is Yvonne Strahovski Australian?
She is Australian.
That makes sense.
Yeah, she came over here and got the role for Chuck within a couple of days.
Of course she did.
Well, I think she auditioned for Chuck before before she actually moved from Australia.
Oh, okay.
Number 2 on my list. Remember I said I'm going to do the thing where I describe it and then you try to guess.
Yes.
This one is the least funny Jason Bateman has ever been.
Ozark.
Oh, no, yeah, that.
I got way too excited about that.
I forgot
You
what the name of that show
and you're
is.
wrong.
Really? It's not Ozark.
Yes.
Oh.
Everyone was going to say Ozark. But surprise, it's The Outsider on HBO.
Oh.
Yes. Oh, indeed. The Outsider on HBO is a miniseries. It's 10 episodes. It's based on a Stephen King book by the same name. It's developed by Richard Price, who wrote Shaft, the 2000 movie with Samuel Jackson.
Ooh.
So this guy's got range because this is nothing like that. It stars Ben Mendelsohn, Cynthia Erivo, Jason Bateman, and a bunch of other people. Jason Bateman also directed the first 2 episodes because he's great at everything.
Yep. That is correct.
It's one of the best shows I've seen in a long time. It's basically about, I don't know how to describe it without giving anything away. Like, Ben Mendelsohn is a lawman, and someone is attacking kids, and he has to find out who it is. He thinks it's Jason Bateman, but then things are not adding up. Blah, 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 blah. Basically, it's like a crime drama in the beginning, and then it switches gears to a supernatural horror show.
Of course.
But it's a really good crime drama, and it's a really good supernatural horror show.
Wow.
That-
Like,
It's like From
it's
Dusk Till
engaging the whole
Dawn.
time.
Not the
Yeah,
TV series, the movie.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's like, oh my God, vampires.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like, oh my God, freaking Stephen King monster. All of the cast is great, but Cynthia Erivo is amazing. I don't even watch award shows, but I really want her to get awards for this, like Emmys, Golden Globes, all the TV awards, because her performance is on point. She plays a character who she's like a little more in tuned to, otherworldly things, a little more inclined to believe in it. But she also has something I can't diagnose, but it's kind of like in a Rain Man way where she can look at a building and tell you how tall it is.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and she can remember everything down to like random history facts, and she can remember what page in the book she read it on. She remembers everything.
Oh, wow.
She's basically a private investigator, and she's great at it.
So she has like an eidetic memory, but also something else going on. Some
Sure.
sort of savant.
Yeah, and she plays it with all of the awkwardness that you could imagine that role would have, especially considering that she believes in a bunch of things that most people don't. And that's the cool thing about the show is that even though it's about like some kind of supernatural monster, it's still grounded in this reality, because it's kind of like, if this thing exists in our world, this is probably how people would go about experiencing it. Like, no one would believe you, and then they'd be like, well, how do you explain this evidence with this? There's no way for this to logically make sense. And they're like, well, I don't know how to explain it, but it's not a monster, obviously. And she's like, yeah, but it is though. And Ben Mendelsohn is also great because he's
Ben Mendelsohn.
he's Ben Mendelsohn, but like his character is like the skeptic, but over time he just realizes, I can't go on not believing what she's saying because I literally have exhausted all logical explanations for what is happening. Like, at this point, what do I have to lose by just trying to listen to her? And there's a lot of frustration because a lot of people don't, and then it's so good. But like the way that she talks and the way that they talk about the supernatural, I was thinking, like, do I believe in like monsters? Because it's like,
Do you, Dallas? Do you believe in ghosts?
I think like at this point, I don't know if I think I might believe in everything. Just the way that they talk about different cultures having different names for all these same things, and it's like all these different people were like, oh, I've seen this here and I've seen this here, and it's like, well, you guys have all seen something very similar. Maybe there's a reason for that. There's another line that I meant to write down, but I didn't, and I will have to bring it back up at the end of the year because this show is definitely going to be on my favorite shows of the year list. And at that point, I will have the line that was like, yo, that's deep, bro. Anyway, the show's great. It's on HBO. Watch it. Jason Bateman's in it. He's not funny at all because the show's not funny, but it's great. I don't know if you guys should watch it because you guys don't really do horror things.
Nah, I'm not about that life.
Although maybe Gabby, because it's kind of serial killery too, and you're kind of into serial killers for some reason.
Yeah, I'm not gonna explain why.
No, you don't have to explain why. I'm just saying that maybe your interest in murder will make you like
True
the show.
crime.
Yeah, true crime. That murder. Anyway, Gabby,
Yes.
what's your next thing? Is it about murder?
It is not.
Okay, cool.
Okay. But I do have something about murder in here. So.
You did. You started with one about murder too.
Oh, I have 2 things about murder.
I bet you do.
Oh, you clocked me, right? Right. Very well. Okay, so my next one, and I'm going to be very brief on this because Demi talked about it earlier this year, is High Fidelity.
Hey.
Yo, it stars Zoe Kravitz, Jake Lacey. She's not really a newcomer, but she was new to me. Divine Joy Randolph and David H. Holmes, who's completely new. He doesn't even have a Wikipedia page, and then a bunch of really cool guest stars. And it's basically the movie High Fidelity that's been turned into a TV show. And instead of a dude named Rob being the main character, it's a woman named Rob, and it's Zoe Kravitz. I think I've only related to like one other character on TV like this much, just with how messy her life is.
Who was the other character?
Amy Santiago.
Right, that makes sense.
But it's just really good. The music's amazing.
It should be.
Right? But she has like the same taste in music that I do. It's amazing.
Yeah, it should be amazing. It's about a woman who owns a record store.
Yeah. And I was like, wait, how are they making money? And then they showed them on Saturday and I was like, oh, thank God. That makes any sense. But it's really good. It's funny. It gets real intense and sad. It has one of my new favorite actors. His name is Kingsley Ben-Adir.
Is that the one who played the ex-boyfriend?
Yes. Oh my God.
He's been in a number of things that I've seen. He's in that Christmas movie that Anna Kendrick did. He's in King Arthur, Legend of the Sword.
Yes. He's great in everything too.
I like the woman who plays her best friend. I think her name is Divine Joy.
Yeah.
She's great. I want more for her character if we get a season 2. I think we're going to get season 2.
And she's basically a gender bent version of the Jack Black character from the original movie.
Nice.
Yeah. And
I really like that show.
Yeah, it's really great. The music's amazing. It breaks the fourth wall.
And Zoe Kravitz gets something to do.
Yeah, and Zoe Kravitz is like, she's a full character for once. Like I feel like she's often like put in stuff and she's just kind of there. But no, this is like she gets to show you her range and she's actually hilarious, and it's just a really, really good show. So I highly recommend it. I don't want to go into more because Demi did cover it earlier this year, and it's on Hulu, and all the episodes are out. I believe there is going to be a second season. It's just, things are up in the air because of our current global situation. Highly recommend High Fidelity.
It's on Hulu.
Nice.
All right, my next show, which is what I started the quarantine with. We're going to start from the beginning of my quarantine. The first show that I watched ever in mid-March while I was stuck at home was All American.
Hey, I haven't started that season yet.
Hey, you should get on it.
It's been on my Netflix list for like months.
The first 2 seasons are on Netflix. When a star high school football player from South Central is recruited to play for Beverly Hills High School, 2 separate worlds collide, and it's inspired by NFL Super Bowl champion Spencer Pasinger's life. I don't know how much of this is inspired by his life. Probably just the part where he went from South Central to Beverly Hills, because the rest of it's wild.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, the show stars Daniel Ezra, Michael Evans Belling, Samantha Logan, Taye Diggs, Breezy, Greta, I'm so sorry if I mispronounced your last name, Oniogu, and Cody Christian. I like that show so much. I really love it. I had been meaning to watch it forever because one of my friends is actually on the show. Shout out to Chelsea Tavares, who plays Patience.
Patience.
Woo! I love her. She's great. I just hadn't watched it. I just hadn't had the time. And guess what? A quarantine gives you all the time in the world. So
you started the first season during quarantine and then you finished both seasons?
I watched like both seasons in the span of like 3 or 4 days.
That makes sense. Okay, because I remember I had watched, I think we talked about it on the podcast before, and I'd watched it and I was like, this is a show for Demi. But I think at that point you hadn't watched it yet. This was pre-quarantine.
It became a thing to kind of trash talk me for not watching it, especially since I know somebody on the show. So
yeah, and I was like, this is a CW drama, but with black people. Demi's gonna love it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I really do love it. I think the characters are great. The acting is really good. I'm really invested in these characters and seeing where they go. I don't want to say too much because you haven't seen season 2 yet.
That's fair. Please don't.
But yeah, it's super dramatic, and yeah, support black actors, guys. We need more of them out there. But yeah, it's fantastic. It's really enjoyable, especially because I don't really watch too many CW shows anymore.
It's probably good.
Yeah, sometimes you want a good teen drama, and this is a really good teen drama.
Very dramatic. Very teen.
All of the above. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say
Also,
about
Daniel,
it. Oh, wait, say again?
Daniel Ezra's British.
He is British. I heard him speak and was like, wait, what?
I heard him in the interview and I was shocked.
Those
Yeah,
Brits, man, and their amazing accents.
Yeah, he's British. Michael has a fashion line called 5 a.m. that people should check out. Greta has a YouTube channel where she vlogs and stuff, does a bunch of vlogging stuff. She does a lot of baking, which is cool. She had Michael on once and they made donuts because Michael is obsessed with donuts.
As he should be.
Yeah, they're great. So yeah, you guys should check out that show and maybe even check out the stuff they do on the side because Daniel Ezra also kind of has a podcast on YouTube where he brings on his co-stars and just talks to them for like an hour.
Sounds fun.
Yeah. The show is also
All right.
really good, guys. And it's funny, I was watching it. There's a cast member from The Expanse on that show, and I had just recently finished The Expanse before that.
Nice. It's been like 40 minutes. Colin, are you still here?
Colin?
Supposedly.
In spirit.
Oh my God.
There you go.
Okay.
I was
Did
gonna
not
ask.
expect an answer. Anyway, this next one. Remember when Zootopia came out and people were making all those furry jokes about it?
Are you talking about Beastars or whatever that thing is?
Hello.
So yeah, this one's like that, except all those jokes are not jokes. It's just the show. Anyway, Beastars is on Netflix. It's directed by Shinichi Matsumi, and in English stars Jonah Scott, Laura Jo Miller, and Griffin Puatu. So yeah, one time, Kayla and I were just chilling at the house, and we were browsing Netflix. And you know those days where you're just like, this might as well happen, you know?
No.
That was
Yeah, I got your reference and I appreciate it.
yes, that was a John Mulaney reference for those who got it. Yes, this was one of those. It was one of those nights. We were just like, this might as well happen. So we watched Beastars, all of it. And you know, it's odd, but it kept us interested enough to finish it. I'm not going to say a whole lot about the show, but I will say that a rabbit being slut shamed is not something I thought I'd ever watch a show about.
I'm not gonna ask questions.
Really?
I was going to, but I decided not to.
Gabby, did you say really? Like you thought that was something I'd watch a show about?
I just feel like bunnies are a common like cartoon thing. So I'm gonna stop now.
No, you.
Stop.
Okay.
She has to
Last thing I
stop
wanna
now
say.
because she might say something wrong.
I don't know if I call it wrong. Just you know,
It'll be wrong
it's right
for her.
Gabby.
It'll be
Stop
wrong
it.
for her. She
Mm.
doesn't want that.
Stop it.
Also, there's a panda in the show, and he has a crossbow, and he's like the most gangster character I've seen in a very long time. He was amazing. I don't remember his name. I don't have a lot else to say about the show, but for some reason, I'm just curious about Colin and Gabby's thoughts on the show.
I mean, Gabby hasn't watched it, so like,
I'm not
I know she
gonna
hasn't
watch
watched it, but I feel like she has thoughts
No.
for some reason.
No.
No question mark.
I'm not gonna watch it.
Colin, have you seen the show?
yes, I have.
What are your thoughts on the
Of course she
show?
has.
Freaking wild to hear that Dallas had watched it. I mean, it's of the two furry anime I've watched this year, it's definitely the lesser one, but it's still really cool. I don't know, it has this sort of style to it that I thought was really interesting. Not aesthetically, but like the music and stuff, and it was a really interesting show and kind of wild. Wild animals. But yeah,
Very wild.
it's a good time, and I would recommend it whether you're into furry stuff or not, because really the furry stuff is like, it's surface level, but it's not like, oh man, look at these hot furries. It's more like, yes, they happen to be animals, and we're using that to talk about like prejudice and stuff.
I'd recommend it to Gabby.
I'm not gonna watch
Why
it.
Gabby specifically?
What'd you say, Colin?
Y'all,
Why
stop
Gabby
it.
specifically?
Stop it.
Why Gabby
I'm not-
specifically?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh no.
I just feel like she'd like it, you know? Just given her interest.
Mhm.
You're stop it. You're gonna make people.
Gonna make people like it.
Oh, no.
Gabby, you might as well put a disclaimer now.
I am not a furry, guys. I'm not a furry. It's not a thing.
Okay, so
Stop trying to
my
make
new
our audience think I'm a furry. Stop.
Hey Gabby, you remember the episode we talked about Kova?
You mean
So,
episode 1?
They drew
Or is
that
that
line
episode
Dallas
two?
remembers.
like that. Okay, they made that choice.
I'm just saying I'm not the one trying to make our
Stop
audience
it
think that.
now.
Okay. I think my new goal for this podcast is in every episode I'm gonna get Gabby to say I am not a furry.
Gabby, what is your next show on your list?
Yeah, Gabby,
So
what's your next show?
mad at you guys. My
I
next show
didn't
on
do
my list-
anything.
Oh my god, I'm so mad. Okay, the next show on my list is called Normal People. It's on Hulu. It is a miniseries.
I've heard of that one.
It's very torrid and amazing.
Summer Bishel has been talking a lot about it recently on Twitter.
So much sex. Okay.
Is she in it?
No,
No,
not.
she's not. She's just commenting and being amazed by it.
Yeah, it's really
Okay.
good. So I thought they were kind of toxic at first, but well, I'll explain it. Okay, so Normal People is about two people. They start off as teenagers, and it follows them through college. And they are Marianne Sheridan and Connell Waldron, and they live in Ireland in a place called County Sligo. And Marianne is like a really nerdy rich girl in town, and Connell is like a well-liked, also kind of nerdy and like gifted, but like everybody really likes Connell. He's very popular. And Connell's mother works for Marianne's mother. And so they kind of start having this secret affair where like Connell will go over to Marianne's house or Marianne go over to Connell's house and they just like hook up. And then Connell like wants to keep it a secret. So it's kind of like them navigating that aspect of it at first. And then it just kind of follows the way that their relationship develops and changes from them just like hooking up in high school to them going to college together and being best friends and then like dating again and not. And it kind of just follows them like the way that they grow up as people. I guess you could say it's like a love story. It's just kind of like extremely frustrating sometimes to watch because you're like, just talk to each other. Or like the character of Connell will say things like, because he's very shy and like has a lot of anxiety. They don't specifically say that, but like you could tell in the way that he like somebody like hinted that they knew that he and Marianne were like hooking up or like, and he like, you know, he just like excuses himself and goes into the bathroom and like just like dry heaves and like freaks out in a stall by himself. So like you can tell he has like a lot of anxiety. He doesn't necessarily want people to know about his personal life, right?
Right.
But he'll also say things to Marianne where he's like, I can talk to you, like you're my best friend, la la la. But then they'll have a breakdown or like they'll break up because they didn't communicate. So I'm like, if she's the one that you're talking, like apparently you're not talking to her either. Like, that being said, it's really good and it like sucks you in. There's like some heavy like cinematography where you're just like, this is just so romantic. Oh my god. You're like rooting for them, but at the same time you want them to grow. It's really good. There's also like Connell has this chain the whole time and everybody just freaked out about this chain. Like it has its own Instagram account. Like I don't understand. It's just a regular ass chain.
What?
It's not even, it's like, you know the one that you used to wear in high school, Dallas? It's like that one.
The silver one?
Yeah, but it's gold in the show. But like it's very plain.
Yeah.
Like you didn't have like a
It's a very plain
fancy chain. It was the plain chain.
Why do you remember that? I didn't remember that until you just said it.
Because I was thinking about a comparison and I was like, oh, I remember Dallas used to wear jeans.
That's crazy. I forgot all about that thing.
Oh god. Anyway, yeah, it's really good. I do recommend it. It was produced by BBC and then I think sold to Hulu, but I'm not entirely sure. And it's based off of a book also called Normal People, and it's directed by Lenny Abramson and Hetty McDonald. And it takes place in Ireland, and I've always wanted to go to Ireland, so I really enjoyed like watching it put on screen, particularly the city, because I don't think I've ever seen like, I've only seen the Irish countryside in like TV shows and movies, so it was nice to see like the city for once.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I highly recommend Normal People. Oh my god, it will make you feel so many feelings.
Feelings.
So many feelings.
What are those? Anyway, no, that's not true. I feel a lot of feelings, especially about the show that I have next up on my list. After I finished watching All American, I decided it was time for me to try once more to get through Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
Oh goodness.
For those who don't know what that is, it's about Jedi Knights that lead the Grand Army of the Republic against the droid army of the Separatists. Basically, everything that happens between episodes 2 and 3. It was always very difficult for me to watch Clone Wars. I never could get through it for some reason. Finally, I just decided I would watch. I based it on a list of episodes that people thought were absolutely mandatory for viewing, and maybe one day I'll go back and watch some of the filler episodes. But yeah, I really wanted to get through it because there were storylines and characters and things that I wasn't really aware of, and I love Star Wars, and I don't like not knowing. I didn't like not being a part of something that was so critical to the Star Wars story. But on top of that, season 7 was coming out on Disney Plus pretty shortly after I started watching the show. So I was like, I gotta catch up. I gotta watch the show so I can watch season 7 and see how it all ends. And it's a really good show. For me, Clone Wars is a good show that has great moments in it. Like, it has great story arcs sometimes. There are just some times where you just watch a certain arc of the story and you're just like, wow, that's incredible. That's a good story right there. Whereas the show itself is just good. But yeah, the show stars, well, it was created by George Lucas and Dave Filoni, and it stars D. Bradley Baker, Matt Lanter, James Arnold Taylor, Ashley Eckstein, and I'm going to put Sam Witwer on this list because of how big of a role he plays in the final season of the Clone Wars. I think it really improves upon the characters and the stories of the prequels. Getting to see Padme do political things, I thought that was cool. I loved those episodes. Watching Anakin Skywalker, there's a little bit more depth to Anakin through watching this show, especially because he has Ahsoka as a Padawan, and just seeing what happens with Ahsoka. Ahsoka's got one of the best storylines probably in all of Star Wars.
Was she created for this show?
Yeah, she was. She was created specifically for the show. She's not in any of the live action anything so far. Rumor is that she's going to be on The Mandalorian. The Clone Wars is where the Darksaber storyline started, which is a lot of fun because if you watch all of Dave Filoni's work with Star Wars, you just watch the Darksaber just show up in different places and how it makes an impact, and it's really great. I don't know if it shows up in Resistance actually, but in any other work, the Darksaber shows up, and that's really cool.
Really quick, what's the Darksaber?
The Darksaber. Did you watch all of Mandalorian?
I did.
It's the thing that shows up in the last episode. That's Giancarlo
Giancarlo
Esposito's character. Yeah,
Okay,
that's the Darksaber, and it's got its own lore, and it's a big piece of Star Wars. If you watch anything that's not the movies, season 7 is really good, but those last 4 episodes are some of the best Star Wars, some of the best TV, and it's so great and also kind of wild because they keep making us relive Order 66 from different perspectives, and it's really hard, guys.
It's really mean.
It's really
Sounds
mean.
rough.
It's really mean. Stop making me relive the massacre of the Jedi over and over again from different Jedi points of view.
Is that like Star Wars version of watching Bruce Wayne's parents get shot in every movie they make?
Yeah, except when you're watching it in Batman, you can only watch it from Bruce Wayne's point of view. If you're watching Star Wars, it's like, okay, well, it happened over here. Okay, well, now you're playing Jedi Fallen Order, so you have to relive it again because this Jedi lived through Order 66. Okay, you're watching the Clone Wars. Now you got to see what happened to Ahsoka when Order 66 happened, which, by the way, is a gorgeous moment. That episode plays so heavily on you knowing what happens.
That makes sense.
It plays heavily on you having seen episode 3 and you knowing what's happening. So the music plays into it, and you're kind of just the anticipation. You just kind of, you're waiting for it to happen because you know it's going to happen. And then Ahsoka has like this connection when she can feel Anakin turning to the dark side. Like she can hear it, and she has that moment. Hearing Hayden Christensen's voice on that show, I was a wreck. And especially because the last time she saw him, Anakin was so happy and excited to have her back. And then the next time she'll ever see him again is he's Darth Vader and she has to fight him and she doesn't know. It's so much, man. Like the Star Wars lore, like if you keep up with it, it gets hella emotional sometimes.
Like melodramatic.
Yeah, which it should. It's a space opera. That show is really good. And if you really want like the connectivity, the tissue right there between those films, I highly recommend it. There are some really cool, I always love when Star Wars gets really like weird too. So there are a couple of like really, really weird episodes of Star Wars The Clone Wars that are really cool. It's really awesome. And plus you get to know more about the clones. because it's not like they're like robots who just follow orders. Like, no, they each have their own personality and they start giving themselves names instead of going by numbers because they're clones, but they're human beings. They have feelings and they have autonomy. And the show really dives into that. But yeah, Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Dallas, what's next on your list?
The next thing on my list. Also, Kayla loves that show you were talking about, by the way. She watches
Yes.
it all the time.
I finally
Not all
watched
the
it.
time.
Finally got through it. It took 3 attempts, but I got there.
Yeah, it's 7 seasons. It's a lot. Anyway, back to the next thing. Next hint from my list: a fun coming of age comedy about gang violence, manhunts, and death threats.
Oh,
I'm
I
assuming
definitely know
that's on
about
my
this one.
block.
Wait, say it one more time.
Colin.
Yeah.
Sorry, Colin got it. But yes, it's on my block. A fun coming of age comedy about gang violence, manhunts, and death threats. Yeah. Let's get into it. On my block on Netflix, just finished its 3rd season. It was created by Lauren Unguric. I looked up how to say the name. She created Awkward on MTV.
Ah.
I don't know if anybody remembers that show. I saw it a couple times. It was all right. It was also created by Eddie Gonzalez and Jeremy Haft, and they wrote the movie All Eyes on Me about Tupac. Remember that? Yeah, I remember that. It stars Sierra Capri, Jason Janeo, Brett Gray, Diego Tinoco, and Jessica Marie Garcia. You might recognize those names because I've used at least 80% of them in Fancasts, and I will keep doing it. I love the show. I love the characters. I love the representation. I love the comedy. I love the drama. The only, I guess, gripe I have with the show is that every season seems to be trying to raise the stakes from the last season, and it kind of makes it a little less relatable than when the show started. When the show started, it resonated, it had this authenticity about kids in LA navigating their coming of age as friends. And now it's about like money laundering and doing manhunts for a crime lord.
What?
Yeah, they're like, so the first season they're going into high school, and one of the kids gets involved with gangs because they live in a rough part of LA. There are gangs. In season 2, it's like, oh, one of them found some money that was hidden by a gang leader back in the day, and now they have to money launder it because they can't use it otherwise. And I was like, okay, we're Ozarking now. That's a little weird. And then in season 3, one of the leaders of the whole gang shows up and is like, I need you to find this person for me, otherwise I'm going to kill you. And it's
But
just,
these are children.
these are still teenagers. It's just, it doesn't resonate as well. It's still funny. It's still a good show. I still like it. But it's kind of like, for anyone who has played the Saints Row games, it's kind of like that, where the first one's about gangs, and the second one is just like that. And then the third one, there's like crime syndicates. And then the fourth one, you're the president.
What?
It's just
I'm sorry,
really,
you're
really.
you're the president?
Yeah, this is a Saints Row game when you're like the president of the United States or something.
I think that's the one that also brings in aliens.
Yes, they're also aliens.
Oh my god.
I don't know anything
And
about
then
these
there's a
games,
spin-off.
but what is happening?
Yeah, it's weird. I'm getting off topic. But Saints Row and On My Block are kind of, they have these parallels because I love them both. They both started pretty grounded, and then they both just started to get out of hand. Yeah, I think there's a 4th season coming. I don't know what they're going to do next, but I hope they reined it in a bit. There's one character who says, when are we ever just going to get to be teenagers? And it's like, I felt that because in season 1, you just got to be teenagers, and now you're freaking money laundering manhunters. So yeah, the show's good. It's just getting a little out of hand. It's wild.
Wow.
And it was wild before, and like oh man, they wilding, teenagers being crazy, and now it's wild like
The world is
this
wild.
woman trying to kill these kids. Yeah,
The world is crazy, guys.
but yeah, it's a good show. It's fun. It's funny. It's a little out of hand, but it'd be like that sometimes. Moving on.
Gabby, what you got?
My next show is called Dairy Girls. It's on Netflix. It's a comedy about a bunch of friends, predominantly girls, but there's one boy, who are going to school in Northern Ireland in the 1990s when there was like kind of a lot of like violence going on in Northern Ireland with the IRA. But it is a comedy show and it's hilarious. Oh my god.
I've seen the trailer for this.
It's so
It's
funny.
really good. You should
With all
watch
the
it.
Irish kids.
Yeah, it is really good.
Oh my god, Colin.
Yeah, Colin's here. Yay, I found something Colin likes. Oh my god, this show's hilarious. And it has the guy that plays Barristan Selmy from Game of Thrones as a grandpa. And I was like, in my head, I was like, I didn't think of that man as old, but now that I'm looking at him, He's old.
How did you see the old man with white hair who gets called out for being old in Game of Thrones and didn't think, oh no, he's old?
But he was still competing in like tournaments and stuff. So in my head, I was like, he old for a night, you know? And then I saw the show and I was like, oh, he's Grandpa Joe. Like, is he Grandpa Joe?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Grandpa Joe.
Yeah, he's hilarious. Okay. I will
Like Charlie and the Chocolate
About
Factory.
to take
Grandpa?
over the factory. Yeah.
yes, but no, they're Irish. They're not
Okay.
English. Well, they're British because it's Northern Ireland, but they're
We're not going to get into that.
anyway. So it's basically a bunch of friends. They live in in a place called Derry, and it's just them getting up to shenanigans. 4 friends, 2 of them are cousins. I think what was supposed to be the main character is Erin, but she's like it's slowly become much more of an ensemble. It's about this girl Erin, her really weird cousin Orla, her friend Claire. Is Claire the like really like nervous one?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. They're like super nervous friend Claire, and they're like wildin' ass friend Michelle. And then the first day that they come in, Michelle's cousin gets introduced, and the way they introduce her cousin is hilarious. And they all go to an all-girls school, and Michelle's cousin was put into the all-girls school because he's English. And at the time, there was a lot of animosity towards English people, so they thought he would be safer in the all-girls school versus the boys' school, where he could get just like murdered or beat up really bad all the time. There's like an ongoing joke where like people pretend they don't understand his accent. Like they're just like, what is he saying? Like, why do you talk like that? It's really funny. It's just like shenanigans, and the backdrop is what's going on in Ireland at the time, or like Northern Ireland at the time. So there's like some like violence in the background, there's animosity, but the whole time it's just kind of like just hilarity in the foreground, and I really really like it. It's really good. I'm trying to think
Good
of
to
like
know.
what American show it kind of reminds me of, but I can't right now. And then my favorite bit about the show is the grandpa is like hates his son-in-law, and his son-in-law's named Jerry. So I just keep thinking of Rick and Morty. He's like
It is like Rick and Morty.
a lot of animosity towards Jerry. It's really good though. I do highly recommend it. The like outro theme is the Cranberries because like of course it is, and I love it. It's on Netflix.
Yeah, so the next show on my list is Little Fires Everywhere. Little Fires Everywhere follows the intertwined fates of the picture perfect Richardson family and an enigmatic mother and daughter who upend their lives. Based on Celeste Ng's 2017 bestseller. The story explores the weight of secrets, the nature of art and identity, the ferocious pull of motherhood, and the danger in believing that following the rules can avert disaster. I think it's a limited series, and it stars Reese Witherspoon, Kerry Washington, Joshua Jackson, and is rounded out by a young adult cast: Lexi Underwood, Megan Stott, Jade Pettyjohn, Gavin Lewis, and Jordan Elsas. It is a super good show. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. Reese Witherspoon is so good on this and like Big Little Lies, like to the point where every episode of Little Fires Everywhere, I was just like, why is Reese Witherspoon so good at Karening it up? She's so good. Like every episode, I was like getting mad at her. I was just like, "Ooh, I hate your character so much." God, like, ugh. Like episode 2, she offers Kerry Washington's character a job as basically their maid. Kerry Washington's character is like clearly like, what the hell? And even I'm sitting here watching it like, you don't realize how racist it is that you're asking a black woman to come work for you as your maid. That's what we're doing now. That's what we're doing.
Gosh.
It was wild. But no, it's a really good drama and I really enjoyed it. There's a lot about motherhood, a lot about art, secrecy, stuff like that. It's just so enjoyable. But yeah, it's a drama. The kid actors are all really good, especially Lexi Underwood, who plays Kerry Washington's daughter. Her character does something later on in the season, and I was watching the show, and I was like, "That is your mom's black. Don't make her. Oh God, don't make her get out the car. What are you doing? She gonna get you." I was like, I was like, you out here
Spoken like a black daughter.
Exactly. I was like, you out here wilding. Stop it. Stop it. I don't know like what else to say about the show because I don't want to give too much away. The reason why it's called Little Fires Everywhere, like the show starts with the Richardson family's house being on fire. Like it is burned down. And as the show goes on, you discover who burned down the house, but you also discover what led up to the event in question. So it's kind of a mystery, but it's also kind of not. The acting is great. Like I said, Lexi Underwood is a really, really great young actress. Megan Stott also is really great. She plays the Richardsons' gay daughter, but she's like just getting into high school. So she's like 14. And so she's like in the closet. And it takes place in like the 90s. So things were different back then and probably a lot worse if you were to come out. So she gets teased a lot or whatever. There's a scene in the show where they talk about how the kids are talking about how other kids at school are calling her Ellen. Her mom is like Ellen DeGeneres because she's funny. And they're like,
Oh God.
no. Like, there's also an episode that goes back in time where you watch the younger versions of Reese Witherspoon and Kerry Washington's characters. And the actresses who play them are so good at it. Like literally I watched that episode and was like, I would watch an entire series of the younger versions of them. They were incredible. And I want to look up who played them. I remember Anna Sophia Robb played younger Reese Witherspoon. She's good.
Oh, nice.
And then Tiffany Boone, who plays younger Kerry Washington and really just embodied what Kerry does when she acts. They're both really talented. And I was like, I'd watch that spinoff. I know we're not going to get it.
I'm wondering. I haven't seen Anna Sophia Robb since she fell off that bridge in Terabithia.
Oh,
You haven't been keeping up then.
I definitely haven't.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, it's a great show. It's pretty wonderful. It's a wonderful drama. It's a wonderful family drama, if that floats your boat, which occasionally it floats mine.
very nice.
I would highly recommend that. It is on Hulu, easy to find, and it's only like 8 or 10 episodes, something like that. A lot happens in that show. Dallas, your last show on the list.
Yes, also on Hulu. It is a show that has a setting and at least one star that makes it less palatable through no fault of its own.
Oh, I definitely don't know what you're talking about.
Say it one more time.
A show that has a setting and at least one star that makes it less palatable through no fault of its own.
Nope, no idea.
That could be anything these days.
Yep.
Yeah.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh.
Oh. Yikes, fam.
Oh, I love
Cops.
that show.
I know, but you're not allowed to anymore. Anyway, created by Dan Gore and Michael Schur. You know Michael Schur because he created Parks and Recs and The Good Place. He's also Mose from The Office.
Yes, he is.
Everybody knows the cast, but I'll say it anyway. It stars Andy Samberg, Stephanie Beatriz, Melissa Fumero, and Terry All Lives Matter Cruz.
No.
Dallas.
Ooh,
What?
he's not wrong.
I'm sorry. Terry, what about black crime?
Oh my gosh.
Ooh.
No. You should have gone for black supremacy.
Oh my
Oh.
goodness.
Black Lives Better.
Oh,
Listen, he said it.
I know. But I'm
did.
staying out of it.
These are quotes. But yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about Brooklyn Nine-Nine because it's one of those shows that it'll never be one of my favorites, but it'll always be funny enough for me to want to watch it. I watched the whole season, but then if I didn't, I wouldn't be like, oh my God, I didn't watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It was just like, it's funny. I enjoy it when it's on, but I don't have a lot else to say about it because it's just a funny show. But now it's about cops. I mean, it's always been about cops, but now having a show about cops is like weird and awkward, especially when one of them is Terry Crews.
Oh, yep. You know what's ironic about that is
Is it that the one black guy is the most problematic person in the cast?
no, they had an episode about a cop discriminating against black people, and the person that was discriminated against was Terry Crews's character.
I've heard a lot
That
about
is
that
ironic.
episode.
It's a good episode.
It's a good episode.
I'm just finding it ironic.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, wait, no,
you
he's
should.
not the one black guy. I forgot about Andre Brower. Brower?
Yeah, Andre Brower.
Okay, cool.
Actually,
So there's at least
surprisingly diverse cast.
very diverse, as it should be. It's in New York, right?
I
Brooklyn.
would say very. I would say it's more diverse than other casts.
I guess, yeah, they're, I don't know.
I don't know. Well, I just don't want to. Never mind. We're not going to.
I don't watch the show, so I can't even help in this conversation.
I just feel like it's not as white as I would expect a New York show on like NBC to be.
That's true. You're right. I will give it that.
Yeah.
It's not. And actually, Melissa Fumero was hired for Amy Santiago first, and then Stephanie Beatriz was like, "I'm happy for her, but I'm also really sad because it means I'll never get hired because there's never been a show like that with 2 Latina main characters." And then they surprisingly did hire Stephanie Beatriz. So
Wild,
just to give you an
Yeah.
idea.
Inclusion matters.
Yeah, it's like twice as diverse as the shows that were out when it came
Yeah.
out.
And there's like a gay character. Yeah, it's great.
No Asians though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That tends to happen in like Hollywood. Y'all got to stop that.
They're like, we'll have 2 blacks, 2 Latinx people, and then that'll cover the diversity.
And
Yeah,
it's like, no, there's other people.
I've started noticing that, and I'm just like, guys, wait, what? Like, Asian people exist too. They also need to be
Anyway,
included.
Yes, the show is good. Hopefully next season they'll work at a post office or something, like everyone
Me
on Twitter has
too.
been saying.
They specifically said that they're gonna they're gonna change up the show somehow because they had 4 episodes already and they were gonna start
And they
filming
scrapped
soon.
all of them, didn't
They scrapped all of them, so we'll see where the show goes.
It'd be interesting to watch them deliver pizzas or whatever they do next.
Dude, Post Office and Post Office Crime sounds hilarious and like
Post Office
something
Crime.
that they could do.
Can they be private investigators? Is that okay?
Oh, there you go.
That's the thing that Archer did, because Archer was a spy agency called ISIS.
Ooh.
And they were
Oh.
like, well, can't do that anymore. So then basically after that, every season they changed what they did. They were like drug dealers, and then they were private investigators. And then they were in space.
That's hilarious.
So, yeah. Maybe Brooklyn Nine-Nine will do something like that.
Maybe.
Gabby, what's next on your
But
list?
that's my list.
On the last thing on my list, it's actually not completed yet. It's still coming out. It's called I'll Be Gone in the Dark. And
I've heard of that.
Yes. It's an HBO documentary, kind of about the Golden State Killer, kind of about Michelle McNamara, who kind of made him a little bit famous. It details the case a little bit, but it also or at least right now, it's detailing the way that Michelle McNamara did her research. And for those that don't know, Michelle McNamara was married to Patton Oswalt, and she died tragically, I believe, of a heart attack before she was able to finish her book called I'll Be Gone in the Dark, which was about the Golden State Killer. And the Golden State Killer is a serial killer that operated throughout the state of California. I believe he killed about 10 people, and he committed more than 50 like violent sexual assaults. He was one of the most prolific criminals in the state of California, but there was very little that was known about him, at least publicly. Like, locally, people were like, I remember when that dude was going out and stalking people, and you were like really just kind of really scared in parts of Los Angeles, parts of Sacramento. And she compiled a bunch of information, and she realized that the dude that was operating in Sacramento could be the same dude that's operating in Southern California. She basically helped made law enforcement realize that they should reopen the case. And when they reopened the case, it actually led to an arrest this time around. Actually, you know how they found who the dude was?
No.
How'd they find her to do it?
So DNA through one of those DNA ancestry sites. So they one of his cousins had taken a DNA ancestry test. They had about 4, I believe, suspects. They ran his DNA through one of those sites, maybe hoping that he had taken a test or somebody close to him had taken a test, and it dinged for one of his cousins, and they were like, okay, it's this dude. And then they just followed him around until he like threw out like a can or like a tissue or something, collected that, and then ran it through and confirmed it was him.
That's wild.
Yeah, so
I heard
that's
about
why
that.
I don't want to do one of those ancestry things. Like, I don't know, like there's like very murky law and privacy stuff when it comes to those tests.
That's
Like, I
true.
applaud
do
them
you kill people?
No, but like,
I'm just asking.
but what I'm
Who
saying
knows?
is,
Who knows what it'll be used for one day, though.
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm
Oh,
saying.
definitely, I get that.
That's more what I'm saying. I'm like, there's no law that prohibited law enforcement from doing that. It was clever of them to come up with that. I do applaud them for it. but also like if there's no like laws and it seems really murky right now, it's just I don't know if I want to give you my genome.
She's gonna wait until they come up with good laws for it that are gonna prevent them from just randomly doing stuff just because they have your DNA.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the government's terrible.
Yeah.
That's why I know the name of it, because Patton had talked about it on like Twitter and stuff like that.
Yep. He talks about it a lot. He was especially talking about it the day that they were going to go and arrest the guy.
Yeah.
So they basically kind of took the book a little bit. She also has had a blog back when like blogs were like a huge thing. She had a blog called True Crime. I think it was True Crime blog, where she would write about different crimes, and she would like come up with like theories as well. And she would go to the places where like she would go to the crime scenes and stuff and then write about them and kind of humanize the victims basically.
As we should.
My one thing about true crime is that I feel like a lot of times people focus more on the grisliness of the crime and forget that like this happened to a person. This could have happened to you, you know, and instead they like focus in on the weird like messed up parts of it. And so Michelle McNamara is a departure from that. She really cared about, you know, the victims of these crimes. Anyway, so it's a documentary like miniseries, I think. By the time this is out, the third episode will be out every Sunday on HBO.
Dope.
Man, that's such a tonal shift.
I'm about
from
to
Brooklyn Nine-Nine to this
I'm
murder.
about to shift us back
Sorry.
though to a much brighter note. I watched
good.
Raven's Home.
Hey, that's
Oh,
Yeah.
how's that?
Yeah, so well, first, before I get into that, so Raven and Chelsea, for those of you guys who watched That's So Raven, are now divorced single mothers raising their two separate families in one chaotic but fun household full of friends. When one of Raven's kids begins to show signs that they have inherited her trait of seeing into the future, the already hectic household gets turned upside down, keeping even Raven on her toes. The show stars Raven Simone, Annalise Vanderpool, Isaac Ryan Brown, Navia Robinson, Jason Maybaum, and Sky Katz.
Wow.
Let me just say this. Growing up, That's So Raven was my favorite show on Disney Channel. From the time it first aired, I was literally, I'm about to age myself, I was literally recording them on VHS tapes so that I could watch them later on.
Wow,
I
tapes.
loved that show. So, obviously, I had to watch Raven's Home because I really wanted to know what happens to Raven and Chelsea because they were two of my favorite characters. The show is super funny. Really good. I really enjoy it. Obviously, Raven is just so fantastic with her comedic timing. Like I rewatched That's So Raven before I watched Raven's Home, and her comedic timing, like that show was might as well have been I Love Lucy for our generation, for kids. Like her comedic
Alrighty.
timing is so good. Yes, I love Lucy. Leave me alone.
I did too when I was a kid.
I used to watch I Love Lucy all the time as a kid.
Me too.
Yeah, her comedic timing, she's just so on it. She's so good at it. And then like the slapstick stuff, all of it, it's just so good. And the same with Annalisa Vanderpool. She is also very talented. And the two of them together are just on all the time. And then you add these kids into it, and these kids are they're really good too. And you can tell that they're like kind of learning from Raven and Annalisa, and that's really good. But the writing's pretty good. It's still pretty funny. Like it's still like common nowadays Disney Channel standard stuff, but there's still something about it that really still appeals to me. Like the first episode, because you're fine, you know, they got to lay the grounds of why these two are living together, what happened, were they married, are they not married? And Chelsea says, it's a good thing we both got a divorce, and now, you know, it's like just she says something about it's a good thing about them both getting a divorce. She talks about how her husband is currently in jail for like insider trading or something like that. And both of them pause and they both go, yeah, that got real dark. Yeah, that from that moment on, I knew I was going to like the show because I was like, oh my gosh, that's so wow, bro. That's not something to be joking around about on a kid's show, but it's really cool. There's an episode where they go to a club. If you liked That's So Raven, you're probably gonna like Raven's Home. And I love That's So Raven, so I really like Raven's Home. I think it's really good.
I have a question.
Yes.
Raven's mom ever come back?
No, she
Is
has
Raven's
not.
dad on the show?
He did pop up for an episode. Yeah.
Oh yay.
Man, they cannot get that woman back on the show.
What happened? I don't think I ever read.
She left the show because of family emergency. I think her mother got sick and she needed to be with her mother.
Her grandmother.
Yeah, there you go. Her grandmother.
Yeah. She went to go take care of her grandmother. But story wise,
She went off to
the
London.
mom went to
She-
law school
Yeah, she went to
in
Oxford or something.
England, and then just never saw her
Never
kids
came
again.
back, even for Corey in the house.
It was so weird.
Never came back. But yeah,
Just came in one day like, oh yeah, your mom's in law school in England, and that was it. That was it for the mom.
that was it. Never heard from again. I mean, we don't have any explanation as to what happened to Eddie either, because we knew Orlando Brown was definitely not coming back when they announced this show.
Yeah, I mean Eddie's like they could have said anything, and I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense for Eddie.
But the guy who played Devon Carter has come back on several occasions since he's, the father of her children. So
Oh, she married that guy?
she married Devon and then they got a divorce. Yep. But it's super cute whenever he pops up on the show, because I really like him. I'm a fan of his because he was on a VH1 show that I used to watch that I used to love.
Which one?
Hit the Floor. It's a guilty pleasure of mine. Logan Browning was on that show before Dear White People.
Hey, Logan Browning.
It's really funny I've been watching Logan Browning since she was doing Tyler Perry shows. So she went from like doing the Tyler Perry show she was on and then was on Hit the Floor. And she was so just vastly different on Hit the Floor. She's like conniving, manipulative bitch.
Ooh.
And then after that show ended, she shortly after got Dear White People. And Sam is not Yelena, but I love Yelena.
Her name is Yelena.
Yeah, Yelena Howard.
All right, I feel it.
I do love her. Anyway, that's not what this is about, though. Raven. So if you've got kids, they'll love it. Or if you just liked That's So Raven growing up, you'll probably love it. So I recommend it. And we're going to end it on that nice high sitcom note and not a serial killer-y one.
Murder.
So thank you guys for joining in on part 1 of our quarantine watch. But it's part 1 of the TV episode. We will be releasing a movie episode as well pretty soon. So keep an eye out for that.
Yes, audience, stay tuned for all that. Thanks for listening. Let us know what you've been watching. Give us recommendations because quarantine won't be over anytime soon because people don't want to wear their masks and stay home. Thanks to Crown Digital, Brandon and Io for putting us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thank you, Demi, for editing and reminding me that I need to watch All American. Thank you, Colin, for technically being here. Thank you, Gabby, for letting the audience know that you're not a furry. There might have been some confusion.
I'm so mad at you.
There's only confusion because of you and Colin.
For real.
I mean, let's go back to episode 1 and we'll see about
Oh my god.
It's 1
I
or
didn't say
2. I
anything
don't
in
remember
episode
which one. Is it 1?
I think it's... I think
No.
It might be 2.
No.
Episode 3 or
It's 2 because we did Spider-Man first.
Yeah.
And then we did Lion King.
2 was the Throwback Thursday for Lion King.
Anyway, regardless,
wow.
it was Gabby's fault.
It was
She was the one.
you
who was
reminded.
dripping
Oh
when you
my
said
god.
COVID.
Hey guys, we should close out this episode.
Yes. Back to the audience. Sorry for that interruption. Gabby can't be contained. If you want to share recommendations with us, you can talk to us on the medias. Go to Twitter, y'all_different, Instagram and Tumblr, Creative Differences Podcast, and Facebook, just search for Creative Differences. If you want to talk to me on social media, we can theorize about where Raven's mom went after she went to law school and never saw her kids again. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at A King Named Simba.
You can find me, Gabby, on the Instas at Stegosaurus.
Colin, where can they find you since they couldn't hear you?
Doesn't make sense that they should be able to find me. But anyway, you can find me on Twitter at Duck McGuck.
And you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Dreamy Films. Dreamy is spelled DREEMI. Thank you again for joining us.
It's been different.
Wow.